students, this is Heather, and I wanted to go over the family interview. So the first thing I want to kind of address is the guidelines. So it is worth 100 points. It's roughly about, well, let's say 7 or more pages. Most students are going to do more than 7 because 7 probably won't get you the highest score. But you really want to address all the areas of the interview, the analysis, and the conclusion. And you need to cite the textbook or the PowerPoint and APA. So that's really what you're going to be looking for to determine how long your paper is going to be. It does need to be typed. It does need to be 12 font. It needs to be double spaced. You're going to need an APA title page. We're going to go over that in a minute. You're going to have your paper in APA, and you're also going to have a reference page in APA. So with that being said, let's kind of start going through the interview. With the interview, you have to find a family that is different to yours in some type of way. So it could be the family structure, is it a single parent and you don't have single parent family in your home, or you grew up with that, or it could be something different like race and ethnicity. It could be a different religion. It's up to you. You just need to kind of explain to me how this family is different. Another thing about this family has to have a child between the ages 5 to 10 because some of the questions are going to be abiding to that. They can have multiple children. They can have more than that in the different age groups, but at least have to have one that is age 5 to 10 currently. So with the interview, you can interview your families through Facebook, even Instagram if you need to, email, you can do a phone interview, you can do it face-to-face, you can know the family prior, just has to be diverse to you in some type of way and answer all the questions. The questions are provided, you don't need to ask additional ones. You're not going to be responding to the paper as the question and answer. So like with number 1, names, first name only and age of all living as a unit. You're not going to say that and then put, Joseph, age 34. You're going to say Joseph, husband, 34 years age, and in whoever else. You're going to make a series. So let's start going over how you should format the paper. So with the formatting of the paper, if I was writing the paper, see when we see part A right here, these are headers. This header right here is description of family. I would make this one paragraph. So I would answer all the questions that are in this description of family in one paragraph. You can even leave these headers to help you know that you are addressing everything in the paper. So that might actually make it easier for me to grade too. So it might be helpful. So you would answer all these questions. I'm just going to go through this one first. So names, first names only, ages is all people living as a unit. Do both adults work? If there's not 2 adults, it's just 1. With the interview, you only have to interview one of the parents. You don't have to do both. If you do both, that's great too. You might get different answers, but you only have to do one. And if it's a single parent, of course, it's just one person. And then what are their jobs? What are each child's strengths? What are some areas they could work on? What activities are the child involved in? What would you classify the family's orientation, collectivist or individualistic? You're probably going to have to define that for them. What is their concept of family? What would you describe your family orientation? What influences your family composition? Things like that means maybe they recently went through a divorce or separation or remarried, so something has happened to change the family composition. What events affects your family ties? So maybe just moving out of parents' home. I don't know. I'm just giving some examples. Now, with all these sections, it would be ideal to integrate the textbook or PowerPoint in there and citing an APA. For your first paper, I'm going to be a little bit more lenient on that. You're going to need to at least cite 3 to 5 times, if not more. But if you don't cite at all, that's 15 points deducted. So then we have the next part, family activities. I would make that another paragraph, answer all these questions, get some textbook material in there. Then communications, answer all those questions. It's another paragraph, get textbook in there. Then education, answer all those questions, and that would be another paragraph also, if not more, because that one's kind of lengthy. Then discipline and responsibility taking, you're going to answer those questions in another paragraph. You're going to talk about cultural traditions. Some families may say that they really don't have any, so you would just address that. Community involvement, some families feel that they're not. But if they're attending church and, participating in AYSO and doing different things, they kind of are, but they might just not feel included. So you would answer those questions, and that would be another paragraph. Support from others, you would answer that in another paragraph. And then you're going to compare and contrast to your own family. So this is where you're going to be telling me how this family was originated different from yours. This should be roughly about a page. You're going to be comparing, contrasting the different components. How are you similar? How are you different? So all of that is your family interview, but that's just the family content. So that's worth 35 points. Then we have what we call the analysis. The analysis is also 35 points. So please do not skip out on that because it's really going to hurt your grade. You need as just much importance as the analysis as the interview. So now we're going to start the analysis. You're breaking down basically the components of our class and connecting it to the family interview. So your first thing you're going to do is interrelationship of child, family, and community. So you need to have probably about 2 to 3 illustrations on how you see these things intermingling. So maybe you're going to say an illustration of interrelationships of children in the community can be seen when the parents are participating at church or participating at AYSO or football or dance or whatever they're doing. So you're going to show me how this is connected. So you need about 2 or 3 of those. Then one of the big parts of the analysis is the theory part. The theory part is very important because you're going to be breaking down these 3 theorists. So you can go out of order on it, but I need all 3. It's not just pick one, it's all 3. So with Erikson, you're going to describe you're going to define his different stages. You're also going to define what his theory is. You need to really address, those components. You want to define it. You want to cite it in APA from textbook or PowerPoint. And then one of the other important parts is really connecting your family interview into the theory. So maybe you're interviewing a family that's a foster family, and the foster family just recently have a child in their home, or they are trying to adopt the child. Every foster family is different. So maybe the child is really struggling with connecting to others, and they came from early trauma. So if we're looking at Erikson and we're talking about trust versus mistrust, this child might be developing mistrust because they've had, unfortunate events happen to them as a child. So they went through early trauma. So you would connect it in that type of way. These are not hypothetical. These are specific to your family that you interviewed. Not your personal family, but the family that you interviewed. Then you're going to, and this here should be, for Erikson just alone, should be at least a paragraph to be successful. So you need to cite, you need to define the level, his stages, you need to define his theory, and you need to connect it to your family that you interviewed. Then you have Maslow. So Maslow, you're going to be talking about the hierarchy of needs, that pyramid. So you're basically going to define, what the theory says. You're going to define those different levels of the pyramid, and you're also going to connect it to what your family was contributing to. So maybe the children, this family, make sure the children are bathed, clean, those basic needs, safety. They live in a nice area, gated community. I'm just giving examples out. So those basic needs such as safety and, food and all that is taken care of. So you would kind of connect it that way. With this, again, with Maslow should be at least a paragraph on its own. You're defining the theory, you're defining the different levels of the pyramid, and you're connecting it to the family that you interviewed. Then you have Broff and Brenner. Broff and Brenner, you'd be dissecting those 4 levels. The 5th one is that special one. But you're going to be basically defining that, explaining each of the levels, and connecting it to your family that you interviewed. So like an example for the exosystem. The mesosystem. Let's do mesosystem. So with the mesosystem, we know this is 2 or more interacting microsystems. So maybe the parent volunteers in the child's classroom and participates at the school, and the child is very successful at school and goes to the parent-teacher conferences. So you're going to say, this family really does value the mesosystem because the parent, volunteers in the child's class, attends parent-teacher conferences, very involved, and this is what Brofenbrenner would agree with how the parent is handling this life. So this is, again, another paragraph. So you would need at least 3 paragraphs for just this part right here. So a paragraph each theory. Then you're going to be talking about the positive and negative factors of the family. It's not hypothetical, it's of the family that you interviewed. So with that being said, it could be a mixture of 3 positives or 3 negatives, or maybe 2 positive, 1 negative, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. You just need at least 3. Now, you're not going to be talking to the parents about this. You're just telling me about it. So maybe the parents are saying that they're not very involved and they feel secluded and they don't have a lot of support. So that might be a negative factor because that can make life a little stressful. So maybe you would just restate that. Need at least 3 of those. Then you're going to move into the support empowerment strategies. So these are suggestions that you would give the families if you were like a future educator. Suggestions, thoughts, even referrals out. So maybe if that example we just explained, if the family doesn't feel connected to the community, maybe you can provide, support groups, or maybe attending a church, or having the children get in extracurricular activities, or maybe getting to like the parent committee at the child school to get a little bit more involved. These are just suggestions. You're not going to tell the parents these, you're just telling me. So anything that you feel like could recommend to help these parents. So maybe the families actually just got out of going through a divorce or currently going through a divorce. Maybe you would suggest that the children attend therapy because divorce can be, rough on children depending on how the divorce is going. So if the parents are very good at co-parenting, they get along in front of the children probably are going to be fine. But if not, maybe the children need to have a therapist or a support group for them. These are just suggestions. So then that's all worth 35 points. And if you look at the grading rubric, it kind of breaks that down a little bit more. Then the last part is your conclusions of thoughts. So this, you need to really understand this is going to be a lengthy paragraph. You need to address at least 4 significant concepts that you've learned from the assignment. So it's not a list. I'm not just listing 4 items. You need to be specific and you need to explain. So maybe one concept that you learned from the assignment is how important parents volunteering at the child's school to help children, do well in the classroom. Or maybe the child's struggling and the parent comes volunteer and that kind of helped. I don't know what it is. Everything is going to be different for you, but you need to really explain. It needs to be at least a sentence per concept. The next part is going to be your action plan. So this is hypothetical. You're not going to go out and do it. It's for 3 things that you kind of learned and you want to implement in your life in the future, either as a parent or future as an educator, or something if you're already working on it, want to include more. So maybe your action plan is, when I become a parent, I want to try to at least volunteer in my child's class when I can. It's going to be, everybody's going to be different, but it's not just a list again. You need to explain it. So I need at least a sentence per action plan. So let's jump to the sample really quick. It's at the very bottom. Let me go up. So this is the APA title page. So notice that the running head is like this. The R is capital, H is not. It has the 2 dots. And then family interview is all capital. So that's proper APA. Now then you have the series of your name and all that great stuff. Then you go down to the next page. Now there's actually an error on here. Family interview should be all capital letters. This is what we call a header. So you need to have it all capitalized. Now notice how the student wrote the formatting, which was great. They kept these headers, so description of family. They answered the paper in an essay format. That's what I want. I don't want question and answer. I want you to answer. They even cited the textbook here, and they actually cited an APA. So those quotation, this is direct quote. They had Burns, comma, 2016, comma, page 113. These are these into the brackets, and then it had a period. Notice there's no period right there. That's important. See how long that is? That's ideally what I'm looking for. Maybe a little bit shorter, depending on you. So then they go into family activities. They answered all those questions. They even cited. They have communication. And please notice that those headers are incorrect. They should be all capital letters. Then they go into education, discipline and responsibility taking, cultural traditions, community involvement, support from others, compare and contrast their own family. This is going to be at least a page. Then they go into the analysis. They have the interrelationships of child, family, and community. They gave some samples. Then they go into theory. This one did get docked a little bit on theory. They did well on Erickson, cited even PowerPoint, but where it starts to kind of fall off is Maslow. So here it starts with Maslow. Maslow should go to the next, it should be another paragraph, so go down here, indent. But it needs a little bit more substance to it. It needed connected more to the interview. I need to kind of define a little bit more. And then they go into Brofenbrenner, which should be another paragraph. However, they did talk about Brofenbrenner earlier in the paper, so I did not take as many points away, but it should be a little bit more. So this is just a Brofenbrenner here. It should be more than that. Then they address positive, negative factors. And you guys can all read these. Support and empowerment strategies, conclusion of thoughts. So they have the 4 concepts and the 3 action plans. And then they have, this is an APA reference page, but there are some errors. So family interview right here should be all capital letters. This works cited, or you put references, should be centered. And then these are actually all correct. So they have the textbook, they have the PowerPoints, and it's all in APA. So I hope this helped with your family interview. Remember, it has to be a family that has a child 5 to 10, at least one child, and it has to be diversity in some type of way. And this is going to basically help you with the formatting.